what is the next level for procurement, right? I'm following a topic around how do procurement get a seat at the board level. Pretty much that's what the previous topic was. How do you drive procurement to be more strategic? Well, I'm going to give you some examples there from companies where procurement leaders have become business leaders. They actually run the company. So procurement is just not a back office function anymore. So that's what I'm going to talk about. And all comments welcome. So if you're having any other stuff to throw at me, please don't. All right. Pretty sure you heard this or you're seeing some of this concept. Obviously, you're in 2013, and this particular era, we are shaped by three macro trends. Most people know about cloud computing. I'm pretty sure all of you are using a cloud computing app today. If you're using Gmail, you're already using one. I'm pretty sure every one of you, or at least some of you, will have Facebook. I'm pretty sure all of you will have a LinkedIn or part of the LinkedIn community. And enterprise apps, what is there not to like it? I'm pretty sure everybody's using one. But all these three different, what I call the trifecta, are connected by emerging trends in this world, and the emerging trends around how do you actually make these three things work together? Especially, we're all connected. And in this connected world, it's not, you're all using enterprise apps at the same time you're using your social media, your same time you're part of a community. But some of these areas are actually going to not only drive resonance in your personal life, but also helping you move forward in your professional lives. And procurement is benefited quite a bit, and I'm going to talk about some of those trends. And we are going to continue to benefit by these three trends. At the same time, we also live in a network economy. What do we mean by that? Well, when is the last time anybody visited a library to do research? Anybody? My daughter goes still there. She thinks she can get better stuff in the library because she likes to read books. Buying and selling. I'm pretty sure most of us use one of our e-commerce or walk into a store, but how many of you walk into a store before you buy something, check the review in one of the sites before you go and buy? I'm pretty sure a lot of people do. And imagine what you're doing there. You are going to rely on a review by an individual whom you never met in your life. If somebody told me 15 years back I'm going to buy my iPhone or whatever device I'm using, by something like that, using a trend like that, I was like, you should be kidding. You should be crazy. I don't even buy stuff just because my friend told me. There's no way I'm going to do that. But yet, we're all doing this. I'm pretty sure with the collaboration mediums we have in place, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, we continue to connect to the wider audience. What we are doing in personal lives, I'm pretty sure all of you would love to do that in your personal lives. You go to work tomorrow and all of a sudden you got this magic app, you click a button, all your products and services automatically get ordered, you got your contract in place, the supplier's delivering the product at the right time at the right price and compliant to the contract. That's nirvana for most of you who are in procurement here. And for folks who are in finance, pretty sure driving compliance to the contract is the number one thing finance is looking around. And it is difficult. Why it is difficult in professional lives? Because fundamentally what we do in our personal lives is we collaborate. The fact is we are looking into using a social media, looking at information there, trying to collaborate with another individual whom you never met in life, and using that information to drive our personal decision. Unfortunately, we're not there yet in terms of doing the same thing in your professional life. Why? Because there's still, first of all, even within your organization, I'm pretty sure there are multiple systems in place. I'm pretty sure if I take a survey here, Raise your hands, how many do you have more than one system to manage procurement or your finance or HR? People are going to, 50% of the people are going to raise their hands. So yeah, I got a lot of systems in place. Sometimes I don't even know. I forget to log in. Sometimes I don't even know which systems to log in. In addition to that, think about all the processes, especially if you are growing by mergers and acquisition. I can give mine as an example. Ariba, part of SAP now, we got bought by SAP, and we have a slightly different set of processes, different systems we use. But with the growing pains, you also have an opportunity to overcome some of these challenges. And to do that, you need to start to collaborate not only with your internal folks, but also with your external. It gets back to the point, what is collaborate or collaboration means? Again, I'm not going to read a definition from Wikipedia. Well, collaboration means two things. Individuals working together for a common goal or common cause, or organizations working together for shared goals and options. So we have internal collaboration, then you have external, or what traditionally called the inter-enterprise collaboration. So if you really think about internal collaboration, right, how many of you are in finance? Anybody from finance? There's nobody from finance. So no jokes about finance people. Anybody from legal? Any lawyers here? Okay, wonderful. So think about how procurement has progressed over the years. Many years back, procurement was considered, it's all about transactions. Well, you want to buy, if you're working in a manufacturing company, you want to buy something, like call the procurement guy, he'll get stuff for you. If you're working in a services-based industry, you want to negotiate a contract, hey, just call the procurement guy. He's sitting in the back of the room, back of the office, he'll get it done for you. But over the years, procurement has become more and more strategic. In fact, some of these companies, I can give a lot of examples. Some of the companies which are well-known and doing very well are there because of some of the leaders you have in procurement who have made a fundamental difference in the way they actually onboard suppliers, collaborate with suppliers, and also help CEOs plan for the future. So one of our research with CFO research when we did a couple of years back, two things came out of that research. One, many CFOs want procurement to help them drive forward the company strategy. In order for procurement to do that, procurement has to get from just looking at cost reduction and savings alone to go to the other end and talk about business outcomes, risk mitigation. Because I'm pretty sure most of you work with the CFOs as well as finance organizations. They're all about numbers. At the same time, it's all about risk mitigation too. Many organizations who have got CTOs who have got a seat on the board of directors, they all have the same trait. They talk about business outcomes rather than talking about cost savings. They talk about risk mitigation rather than talking about having sometimes having more than one supplier or being more tactical. So, and that only can be achieved through internal collaboration, because if you're not collaborating with your finance folks or your supply chain, or for example, if you're doing marketing or if you're doing HR services with your HR department, obviously you're not going to get, you're still be considered back office and the procurement guy, rather than saying a procurement leader who is going to help them shape their HR policies and the way HR needs to be run as a business, for example. Which is, again, comes back to the research from CFO Magazine, which you can clearly say, you can clearly look at most finance executives would like to see procurement make advances in areas where technology can play a key role. So a lot of these things, technology can definitely help you. Automate the process. You still don't have to call somebody, use a catalog, or call somebody to order something. There's technology which will help you collaborate better, automate your process better, and be more efficient so that you can have the conversations at a higher level and be more strategic and perceived as more strategic individuals or organization in your company rather than taking the other way around. The second concept I wanted to talk about is inter-enterprise collaboration. So this came back from an article published by McKinsey a couple of years back in 2011. So really think about inter-enterprise collaboration, right? Think about systems you have in your company which don't talk to each other. Imagine you go beyond your four walls, where you have suppliers, you have partners, their systems are different, their processes are different. Yet sometimes there's not enough collaboration for them to work together as a team. Because think about it as a standard procurement 101, right? You wanted to buy a service, or a product. You call the list of suppliers, you give your specs, you say, you can deliver to my specs, give me a price, we'll negotiate a contract, we'll be done with it. Standard stuff, traditional way. But how many of you engage with your suppliers to provide feedback for the product or service you're trying to buy? Because as experts of delivering that service or product, the suppliers can definitely educate you to ask the right questions, to get the right specs, offer alternate products, so that you have options and you are considered more of a partner rather than treating them as a vendor. And that's where McKinsey talks about the concept of inter-enterprise collaboration, where you have to go beyond your four wall to start collaborating with your suppliers. And companies which do that have a distinct competitive advantage in terms of driving revenue and profitability in the organization, as well as speed to market, which is one of the critical areas if you really think about the next generation, the next evolution of procurement, where this is going to be. If you really think about procurement going beyond the 2015 and 2020, that's where a lot of the synergies are going to come from. Because there's only so much you can get in terms of cost savings or cost reductions from your supply base. The next area where you drive synergies, where you take waste out of your supply chain, is to make sure you start collaborating with your suppliers, start working on ideas with your suppliers, innovations with your suppliers. I'm pretty sure a lot of you are doing it. I'm basically saying that's probably, you got to focus more in terms of the next steps in terms of driving that waste out of the supply chain. Even whether it's all the more applicable for both indirect as well as direct. And again, the bottom line is companies who are basically connected with each other, who understand from a buy-side perspective, understand the requirements and how important the suppliers are. From the sell side, the suppliers can trust you, treat you as a customer of choice, which was very apparent a couple of years back in 2007, 2008, when you start seeing a lot of bankruptcies. There's so many examples when suppliers can make the choice to have a customer as a buyer, because if the company is going to bankruptcy, they're not willing to pay the bills, guess what? They're going to go to the competitor to take them as their customer rather than working with other company. But on the other hand, if you have treated your suppliers and partners well, they're going to help you even in tough times. And that was one of the challenges a couple of years back when we saw a lot of bankruptcies, especially in the United States, where we have got examples of companies calling us, Ariba, saying, hey, I got 2 of my 3 suppliers went out of business. Can you find another one? Can you please help? Right? So if you already collaborating with your suppliers, you already know what's happening in the supply base, in that category, in that commodity, you can probably avoid some of those pitfalls and make sure you have the right product at the right time for your business. And again, this goes basically is driven by the collaboration, which probably being part of a network offers. And connecting buyer and sellers is a key to understanding the requirements. Simple things like collaboration on simple processes like procurement, like purchase orders, for example. eliminates some of the waste in the supply chain, because now all of a sudden, if you're being a part of a network, you are basically your suppliers are connected to all their buyers. They have one place to collaborate rather than having a point-to-point connection, which not only increases the cost for the suppliers, but also takes away a lot of their strategic aspects and focus on tactical ways. Imagine from your supplier's perspective, simple things like filling out a form, asking them who they are, and onboarding them. They got to do for thousands of their customers. It's the same mundane stuff they do for every single buyer. So if you can automate the process, have them be in one single place where they can exchange this information, so the standard information like who they are, where they are located, who the contact information is not only applicable to one buyer organization, but also applicable to others, which will basically help the suppliers to focus on giving you more strategic ideas in helping you drive cost savings in the product or service they're supplying, drive more innovation because suppliers have greater other ideas, because they also work with some of your other peers in the industry, and they got other ideas which they can contribute, which will help you to not only do reductions in costs, but also make sure you have innovative suppliers in the ranks who's going to help you to be very competitive. For the sake of time, I'm going to go into 4 case studies, and each of these organizations come from a different background. So again, when I start looking at stories which communicates the message I'm trying to tell here, I picked these 4. There's a couple of others I can talk to also, but let's start with Reed Elsevier. A couple of years back, Reed Elsevier did one of our main stage presentations in our event 2-3 years back. And basically, it took them 4 years to get through what they call a transformation within the global transformation within the organization. Think about it, in 2008, they had 130 people in the headcount, decentralized model, no policies, no global processes, no global tools, and very tactical. It's basically firefighting. You have a problem. You always, how many of you feel like every day you wake up, there's some firefight you always have to go through? That was there in 2008. 2012, when they went through a global transformation, trying to look at both not only their house within their 4 walls, but also their suppliers who are actually providing services and products to them. They were able to reduce their headcount. They went from a centralized model, global policies, processes, and all of a sudden, they became more strategic. So if you really think about what they have done, first, they introduced automation. We go back to the trends, right? We go back to the 3 trends we talked about. They introduce an automated procurement system, so they can automate, have a common system in place. They do have an ERP behind the scene, but they want to make sure they have a procurement system in place which connects both buyers and suppliers. Number 2, they also put together processes and policies in place, because changing a decentralized model to a centralized model is not an easy task. It's not for the weak-hearted. I'm pretty sure a lot of you agree with that. So it took them quite a bit of effort for them to go to a centralized process, have a consolidated set of tools, and all of a sudden the CPO was considered as more strategic because now they're talking business outcomes. They are looking at $100 million per year savings run rate, $384 million in documented savings over the years, over the 3 years. So now, obviously, savings is not the only one. As they continue on their journey, they're also looking at risk mitigation in their supply chain. Because savings is one hand, and as a lot of you know, risk and savings don't go against each other. If you want more savings, you probably have to have more risk in the supply chain. If you want to have less risk, your savings numbers are going to drop down. That's the nature of the game. At the same time, they are able to do it because of some of the automation they put in place, some of the collaboration they worked with, they actually embarked with their suppliers. They started treating their suppliers more of partners. There are a lot more specific individual stories in terms of some of their specific suppliers, how they worked on. And Reed Elsevier in the process also changed their business model. Think about it, it's one of the largest publishing house, well-known house in the world, but they're very diversified. They have different types of businesses. I think most people know publishing, but they're also in the content business too. The second one is, I'm going to talk about very high level, is Cox Communications. So Cox is an Ariba customer. A couple of years back, they came to Ariba. They talked about some of their business needs. What they already have a backend system in place behind the scene. What they wanted to do is the existing ERP system, we're not able to help them collaborate more on the procurement side. At the same time, they want to leave the systems alone. They want to make sure the systems are left in place, but provide an opportunity for the systems to help the people, especially procurement, to execute their goals. And with Cox, think about it, most people know, it's media and entertainment, very diversified, consumer-driven business, and at the same time, they wanted to make sure they can start driving not only risk mitigation, but savings to their bottom line. Even with Cox, pretty much the same blueprint, right? On the one part, you need technology automation so people can start talking to each other, saying the same thing. Imagine how many times you walked into a meeting and people say, okay, do you have the number of suppliers in your organization? And by the way, can I also get our supplier by spend and by region? If you're not able to get all this information in a dashboard within the 5 or 10 minutes, well, obviously you don't have automation put in place. If you had to go back and run a report or work with IT, and 2 weeks later you got to give a report, the battle is already lost because you don't have visibility into your organization. Simple things like that. But if you extend that beyond how you actually bring a buyer and supplier together, if the supplier is actually waiting for his invoice to be paid, he's already mailed his invoice, but they probably went to the wrong department or the account code is missing, so you actually send the invoice back and say, well, the account coding is not right, so redo the invoice again. Imagine how much time is wasted. Imagine the working capital impact for the suppliers, because you're really, really good in negotiating. You already have a 45 and 90-day term, and accounts payable on the 44th day they're willing to pay. They open the envelope. Guess what? The account code is not there. So if you can eliminate some of these challenges and make the process automated, guess what? The suppliers are also going to appreciate you better. They're going to collaborate with you better. They can also run their business better because now all of a sudden you're given an infusion of working capital, which will help them to start thinking about more strategic rather than focusing on, hey, when is this customer going to pay me? When am I going to get paid? Or calling you because, hey, my invoice has not been paid. When can I get paid? It's already more than 90 days. What are you guys doing there? So I'm running out of time. There's 5 minutes. There's 2 other stories here. The slides will be available. Even with Alcoa, same thing. Very diversified, large metals and mining company, global organization. But in order for them to start driving synergies in their supply chain, taking waste out of the supply chain, simple things like automating the PO process, automating the invoice management process, automating the strategic sourcing process. There are tools available. There is a lot of examples of companies who have actually executed this. And I hope some of you are already on this journey. If not, let's get started. With that, I'm actually going to go to the last slide. There's a couple more slides. I'm going to not even talk about Ariba. That's my name, my contact information. We got 3 or 4 minutes for questions. If not, I'll always be outside whole day. I'm going to be here. Feel free to reach out to me. Any questions?
Questions?
I'll start picking people now if you don't ask. I'm just kidding.
Anyone?
Anyone? There's an iPad mini. All right.
Can you just elaborate on the difference between connectivity and collaboration? Because a lot of this seems like connectivity to me, rather than true collaboration where you're building off of each other's ideas. So, difference between connectivity and collaboration.
Very good question. So I think connectivity is the first step to collaborate, if you really think about it. Collaboration is not just about talking to a supplier. You call a supplier for sourcing, you're not already collaborating. You're just saying, okay, give me the bid. I need the bids. Connectivity is basically automating the transactions. That's what I said. One of my comments was procurement needs to be beyond transactions. When you're truly collaborating, how many of you have worked with your suppliers to work on sustainable initiatives? We have a lot of examples. There are a lot of examples within the Ariba family of customers where companies have worked with their suppliers and say, okay, this is the design I have right now. I need alternate materials, alternate processes. How many of you let your suppliers share that information with their peers? We have examples where a supplier invented a process to do certain things. And as a buyer, I said, okay, go and share with your others, because I have 2 or 3 suppliers in the mix. Go and share. I mean, they invented the process with the help of as a buyer as myself, but at the same time, I want them to share the same thing with their competitors who are also supplying to me. Now, if the supplier is not confident that he's actually going to do business with me in the future, he's going to say, no, I'm not going to do it. He's my competitor. But there are a lot of examples where that has happened. So connectivity, obviously you need to be connected to automate some of the mundane things, right? You still shouldn't be sending invoices and POs in an email or sending in an envelope and things like that. That's so 1980s. You're 2013 right now. At the same time, if you're not even started yet in connectivity, in automating the connectivity, it's high time you get started. Collaboration goes beyond that. In order to collaborate, you need to be a trusted partner. The fact is, you're still calling your supplier as a vendor. That is not collaboration. They need to be strategic partners to you. Now, you could say, well, I have 20,000 suppliers. Not all of them can be strategic partners. Yes, I understand that. But the ones you can work with, once you're willing to come and sit down with you and have a conversation, that's where you need to start with. It's a good question. What's your name again? Okay. All right. Thank you very much.